All right, let's talk about one of the biggest challenges on the planet. How do we grow more food for more people without completely draining our most precious resource, fresh water? That's the big question we're diving into. To really wrap your head around this, get this. A whopping 70% of all the fresh water we use goes into agriculture. And for centuries, the go-to method has been flood irrigation. Yep, it's pretty much what it sounds like. Literally flooding entire fields with water. But in a world where water's getting scarcer and our population is climbing, is that really sustainable? Can we afford to keep farming this way? It kind of begs the question, right? There has to be a better way. So let's really break down the problem. These traditional methods like furrow irrigation, they're just incredibly thirsty. A huge amount of that water is just lost. It either evaporates into thin air under the hot sun, or it just runs right off the field before the plants ever get a chance to use it. And wow, look at this. The difference is just night and day, isn't it? On one side, you have that classic flooded field. On the other, a field that looks kind of dry on the surface, but something really smart is happening underneath. Water is being delivered with surgical precision. This contrast right here is the core of the revolution we're talking about.
Okay, so what's the first big solution? Well, think of it like giving every single plant its own personal IV drip. Seriously, instead of drowning the whole area, we can get water directly to the plant's roots, one drop at a time.
This technique is called drip irrigation, and the concept is simple but so powerful. You've got this network of tubes that delivers water slowly, directly to the base of each plant. That means you drastically cut down on evaporation and runoff. You make every single drop count. And look, this isn't just a nice theory. We've got hard data to back it up. A study on watermelon farming put traditional furrow irrigation head-to-head with drip irrigation. The results are measured in yield per hectare, and, well, the difference in those final numbers is pretty striking. And here's that same data in a bar chart where you can really see it. This isn't just a small improvement, it is a massive leap. Farmers using drip irrigation got nearly 40% more watermelon from their fields. Think about that. They grew way more food while using less water. That is a total game changer. Okay, so let's move on to the next solution and see how these ideas can build on each other. What if you could protect the soil even more, creating a perfect little microclimate for the plants? Well, this is where mulch comes in. We're talking about plastic mulch, basically a thin film laid right over the soil. It might sound basic, but this simple layer acts like a protective blanket, and it fundamentally changes the growing conditions for the better. The benefits are huge. Mulch locks moisture in the soil, it stops weeds from growing so they're not competing for water and nutrients, it even keeps the soil temperature stable. And hey, as a bonus, it keeps the fruit off the dirt, which means you get higher quality produce. And the results are just as dramatic as with drip irrigation. In one study on canary melons, just adding mulch increased the yield by nearly 80%. That is an incredible boost in productivity from a relatively simple innovation. So, we have smarter watering and a protective soil blanket. Now let's look at a fascinating case study that combines these ideas, and then adds another layer, turning a waste product into a really valuable resource. This story starts on a dairy farm. Now, dairy cows produce a lot of milk, but they also produce a lot of manure. For years, farmers have used it as a natural fertilizer. But what if you could apply it with the same precision as drip irrigation? This is the manure subsurface drip irrigation system. The process is pretty ingenious. First, you collect the liquid manure. Then you filter out all the solids so they don't clog the system. And finally, you use buried drip lines to deliver that nutrient-rich water directly to the roots of crops like corn. And this isn't just a theory, it's happening right now. Innovators are putting these systems into practice, really proving that farming can be a key part of the solution to our environmental challenges. So, does it work? Let's get to the bottom line. Researchers compared fields using this new manure system against fields using traditional flood irrigation. And the results? They're striking. First off, the farms used over 35% less water. Right away, that's a massive saving, especially in a water-scarce state like California, where this was studied. And what's more, they used that water way more effectively. For every drop they used, they got over 38% more crop growth in return. That's a huge boost in water use efficiency. It's not just using less water, it's using it so much smarter. The potential here is just staggering. If this technology were adopted on just 100,000 acres of dairyland, the estimated water savings every year would be 61 billion gallons. That's enough to supply a major city. Now, as exciting as all this is, it's not a silver bullet. Like any major shift, transitioning to these new technologies comes with a learning curve and some real-world hurdles to overcome.
The dairy project taught some valuable lessons. You need the right infrastructure, like dedicated pipelines. Your staff needs training to manage a computerized system instead of just opening a valve. You need a reliable power source out in the field. And it turns out the system is best for feeding established crops, not so much for starting new seeds. These are all solvable challenges, but they're important to know.
And that really brings us to our final thought. The technology to grow more crop per drop isn't science fiction. It's here today. Drip irrigation, mulching, precision fertilization, they're all proven solutions. The challenge isn't inventing them, it's implementing them. The real question for all of us is, how quickly can we make this the new normal?